Hi everyone, back with another book review. The one this time is called Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and it's by Atheneum, that's the publisher. I have met Jason Reynolds. He's a really cool guy. See, he signed my book right here. I met him at BookCon 2018, which was my first BookCon down in New York City. It's really cool. It's like if you've ever heard of Comic-Con, right, where everyone gets together to celebrate comics. This one, people get together to celebrate books and authors. The best part is when you get to have your book signed by the authors, and then you attend panels where different authors talk about different topics. And so I listened to a panel where he spoke with Angie Thompson, who wrote The Hate U Give, and Jacqueline Woodson, who has like a million books, and Kwame Alexander, who wrote the books Rebound and Booked. And so it was really cool. It was about kind of like own voices, right? Representing people that aren't usually represented in books. It was a great panel. And so this book is written in poem. As you can see here, the whole thing is in poem, so it makes it a really quick read. I actually love reading books that are written in poem because one, they're a faster read, which if you know me, you know that I like shorter books. And two, I like books written in poem because they flow really well, right? They're kind of catchy, right? It's kind of like a song, right? That's why people like songs so much, because songs are essentially poems, just put to music. His poems don't necessarily rhyme, but there are definitely plenty of poetic elements in here that you could find. So this book is about a boy, I'm blanking on the name, Will, and his older brother Sean. So Will, I do believe, is 15, Sean is 19. At the very beginning of the book, you find out that Sean has been shot and killed. So I'm not giving anything away because, like I said, they tell you at the very beginning of the book. It's not a secret. They live in a neighborhood that's very rough, and there are a lot of gangs and lots of violence. Okay, so they have experienced this their whole lives. They lost their father to gang violence. Now, obviously, Will has lost his brother. They have lost friends. Even when they were kids, little kids, got caught up in this, unfortunately, and their lives were lost. And so it talks a lot about that. But the reason why it's called Long Way Down is because if you read this, we'll find out in the book that if you have a close friend or relative that was killed by gang violence, you are supposed to go then take care of that person who killed your loved one, right? So it's kind of like this vicious circle or cycle. It just keeps happening over and over and over again. And those are just like the rules. They talk about the rules in the book and certain rules you have to follow living in this area, in this neighborhood. And no one wants to break the rules, even though if they did, people probably would be much better off. So Will gets himself his brother's gun, and he decides that very early on in the book, he decides that he's going to go take care of the person that he thought killed his brother. And so every basically chapter in the book is a different floor on the elevator in the building in which Will lives now with just his mother. So that's why it's called Long Way Down. He's riding the elevator. You can see these are elevator buttons on the front cover. And at every floor, it stops, the elevator stops, and someone new gets onto the elevator and kind of talks to Will and kind of teaches him lessons or shares things with him that he didn't know before. And I don't want to tell you who any of those people are because it kind of gives stuff away. Or it's kind of, no, it's not kind of, it's really interesting to see who gets on next and how, finding out how Will knew them and how they affected his life and how they affect his life right at that moment, right? And so basically they're trying to dissuade him from going to do the thing he's about to do, which is to go shoot this guy who he thinks killed his brother. And so at the very end of the book, well, okay, wait, I don't want to give it away, so scratch that. I'm not going to tell you what happens at the end. You really have to read it to find out, right? But there is a cliffhanger. That's all I'm going to say. So, who should read this book? Anyone who likes to read books that are written in poem. Anyone who likes realistic fiction, because like I said, for the most part, it's realistic fiction. You should read this book if you want to read about a main character who's a male. Most of the books I read have main characters that are women or female. I think I just happen to pick them out because I'm a woman, but I enjoyed reading something from someone else's perspective. Also, if you want to know a little bit more about the world that Will lives in, that has a lot of gangs, not saying you should be reading about it to... Sorry, my dog just chased a squirrel. Not saying you should read about it to find out what makes gangs cool, because they're not a good thing. But if you want to see like how they evolve and what's expected of you in one, and how it affects every aspect of life in neighborhoods like the one in this book, then you should read it. I really like to read books that open my eyes to different things, right? I don't always want to read about similar situations to mine because I know it already, right? So I always go out and look for books that are different from my life. I think that's all I have for you. This is a really great read. So like I said, I've read it with lots of kids in my 8th grade classes. Another thing I should forewarn you about, there is an occasional swear word in here. So if your parents aren't okay with that, you should not read that. But it's not on every page, right? And it kind of makes some of the poems, and I know my students actually really enjoy that about the book. So yeah, if that sounds interesting to you at all, so make sure you pick up the book Long Way Down.